Okay, today we're going to evaluate in lesson 6.1, and it just looks really weird, that's all. You've done this before. All you're doing is taking a value they give you and putting it in for a variable. So this is called f of x, that's how you read that part. And this is f of 2/3. So what they're telling you is to plug in 2/3 anytime you see an x. So we're going to take this part of the problem and sub in x for it. So the way I'm going to write this is I'm going to write f of 2/3 equals, and then I'm going to plug in 2/3 for x. So again, taking this part of the function, we're going to just plug in 2/3. It looks a little complicated because it's a fraction, but the substitution hopefully is very straightforward for everybody. So now I'm going to just simplify. I'm going to keep f of 2/3 because that's what I'm trying to find. And 2/3 squared is 4/9 minus. I know I need a common denominator, so I'm just going to write 9/9 right away. Over 3 times 2/3, the 3's divide out, and I just have a 2. Okay, and I'm just going to continue on here with an equal sign. So that's negative 5/9 divided by 2. And now we're going to write it the way we know how. And then I'm going to do keep change. Nothing can simplify, so it's going to be negative 5 over 18. Alright, same thing. I'm going to write f of 3 over 2. Sub in 3 over 2 every time I see an x. Alright, so I'm going to do a little side work for the denominator. I know 3 over 2 is 1 1/2 minus 2, and that's going to be negative 1/2. You could find a common denominator, but that's kind of like a pizza pie method. If you guys remember, I know it's been a while, but 1 1/2 minus 2, it's going to be negative 1/2. So the numerator is going to be 2 times 9 over 4 plus 3 over 2 all over, and then from our side work, negative 1/2. Okay, I'm going to continue on. And then 2 times 9/4 is 9 over 2, which is great because the denominators are the same, so we kind of got lucky with that. And then this will be 12 over 2 divided by negative 1/2. 12 over 2 is 6. So 6 divided by negative 1/2. Excuse me. Keep change. And then nothing simplifies, so it's just negative 12. Okay, same thing here. F of 3/4. Okay, so f of 3/4 is equal to 2 times 9 over 16 minus 3/4 minus 1. 2 times 9 over 16 is 9 over 8. So I know I need an 8 for a common denominator, so I'm just going to do it right away. Okay, so 3/4 became 6/8, and 1 became 8 over 8, just so that I can get all the same denominator. You don't have, I like to do it right in the problem like that, and I keep saying this over and over again, but in case you're like freaking out, you can do that in the side work. You're just going to have to write more. So 9 minus 6 is 3, and 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So the answer is negative 5 over 8. Okay, the next one is a little more confusing because it's a negative we need to plug in. So you have to be really careful in this problem. So I'm going to plug in negative 1/2. Why did I put brackets? I didn't need the brackets. I don't know what possessed me to do that. Sorry. We didn't need the brackets at all, so We could just leave it that way. Okay, so the numerator is going to be 1/2. The denominator, so negative 1/2 plus 1 is going to be 1/2. So you get negative 1/2. Numerator stays the same. Denominator becomes 1/4 because 1/2 squared is 1/4. Write it the way that I know how. We're going to do keep, change, reduce, and get 2. Okay, so this lesson is the same lesson as before, but we're going to take it a step further. Here, they're going to ask you to sub in binomials. So hopefully you remember when I was dealing with binomials and trinomials. So it's kind of like putting two concepts together that you've been taught. So let's take a look at this. We have f of a plus 2. I'm going to plug in a plus 2 for x. And then a plus 2, I'm going to multiply it twice because I have to double distribute that. And the denominator just becomes a because you don't really need these parentheses. And 2 minus 2 is 0, so that's why it becomes a. Remember, this is double distribute. Some of you love your foiling, so you can FOIL away. After you FOIL or double distribute, this will become a squared plus 4a plus 4 divided by a. And that's your answer. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. Every time I see an x, I'm going to plug in c minus 3. Okay, so in the numerator, we have a little bit more complicated than before because of that minus 4 is hanging out there. And the denominator will be c minus 8 because negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. So I'm going to double distribute, and that's going to be c squared minus 6c plus 9. And then don't forget that minus 4. Denominator c minus 8. Okay, so f of c minus 3. The numerator, I'm going to simplify. And that is my final answer. Okay, some more practice problems. F of a plus 1, we're going to sub in a plus 1 for x. It's always a good idea to put parentheses because sometimes it affects your answer. So the numerator becomes a minus 1, and the denominator a plus 1, a plus 1. Okay, after you double distribute that denominator, you will get a squared plus 2a plus 1. And that is your final answer. Okay, so the next one, I'm going to plug in x plus h. This one's a little bit more confusing because you're plugging in two variables. So this is going to be x plus h squared minus x plus h plus 1. So here, remember I said with the last problem, remember to use parentheses. Here it is so important that you put parentheses around x plus h because if you don't, you're going to forget to distribute. So now I'm going to distribute this minus sign right here. No idea what that was. I'll distribute this minus sign right there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write x plus h twice. And then I'm going to distribute the minus sign. And that's what I get. Okay, so I'm going to double distribute this part. After you do all your work, it will become x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus x minus h plus 1. And now this is where it gets a little weird because I've been always saying like order is so important. I'm just trying to see where everything should go right now. So that should be hx because h comes before the alphabet. Okay, so I'm totally fine when the problem gets a little crazier like this, that this is your final answer. I'm not too concerned about this. and we can kind of just leave the single variables on the right side of the problem. Um, this xh should really go here, but I'm not going to take off points for that, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we are now in part of the course where the things are like miscellaneous. So we are now at the miscellaneous part of this course. These are all percent word problems. There are two ways to do it. If you want to Google the other way, which some of you may be accustomed to, is the is over of equals percent over 100. You can do whichever way you like. So these problems, you might need to do side work to multiply and divide decimals. I'm not going to show that and just simply go into that calculation. So the way I do it is I translate every part of the problem. So each word gets translated into something. What in math is x? Is in math is equals. A percent, you're going to change it to a decimal. Of in math means multiplication. And numbers in math stay the same. And this is why I like my method, for the most part. You just kind of, after you translate, it tells you what to do. And so it's telling us to take 0.34 and multiply by 18. So you can do that as your side work, and then get x equals 6.12. You must show your work for full credit. So multiplying decimals is definitely a prerequisite for this course. Don't know if you remember this, but on the first day I gave you a decimal worksheet to work on. So some of you may need to go back to that. You have to show your work. You can't just tell me 6.12. So make sure you show your side work for that. Again, this is a skill that you should know. Okay, so the next problem, what is x? Is equals 22% and 0.22. Of is multiply, and 90 stays the same. And so this one, 0.22 times 90, that's going to be 19.8. Okay, so I'm going to now translate the first. That's going to be x equals 1.2 times 80. So 1.2 times 80 is 96. Again, I need to see that work. Okay, next one. What is 7% of 3/5? So there's several ways you can do this one. I'm going to do it with fractions. So 7/100 is 7 over 100 times 3/5. And that's going to be 21 over 500. So here I showed my work because it's a little bit more complicated. If you want, you can change this to a decimal and show me the multiplying decimals work on the side. 3/5 as a decimal, what is that? 0.6. So you can do 0.07. Let me just double check that. 0.07 times 0.6 is 0.042, which is the same as this answer. So if you notice, this is still a percent problem. And the reason why it's in a new lesson is because there are 3 different types, which the first one was the easiest one because it was just like translate and then X is going to give you an answer. This one's a little different. So let me show you. This is very important. What percent? We put a little star here. And I'll get back to why I put a star there in a second. So 15 is 15. Is equals. What percent is X? Of is multiplication. And 50 is just 50. So now I have this equation. I'm going to write it in the way that I know how, which is to reverse 50 and x, because we always see the number in front of the variable. I'm going to divide both sides by 50. And 15 over 50 is work that I should see off to the side, which is 0.3. Now my final answer is actually 330%. The reason why the answer is not 0.3 is because of what I put here. It says what percent. 0.3 is not percent. So what you need to do is, after you get your answer, change it to a percent. In order to change a decimal to a percent, you're going to take the decimal point, which is right here, and you're going to loop it over 2 times to the right. And then it gets filled in with a 0, and you're going to tack on the percent symbol after that. And that's what I did here. Okay, you only have to do this when the problem says what percent. If you look back at 6.3, it's not going to say that, so you don't do that. And also 6.5, it's not going to say that either. All right, so let's try this question here. 27 is what percent of 18? I'm going to write it the way I know how. Divide both sides by 18. And 27 divided by 18, you should show that work off to the side, is 1.5. And so the final answer is going to be 150% because I took the decimal point and I looped it over 2 places to the right. Okay, I'm going to translate. Write it the way I know how. Divide both sides by 4. Because it says what percent, it's going to be 300%. Okay, next one, 20 equals x times 1/2. 20 equals 1/2 x. Multiply both sides by 2. 40 is equal to x, and that's going to be 4,000%. Okay, the last lesson for today is a percent problem, but again, it's a different type. So this is going to be 60 is equals 20% is 0.2, of is multiplication, and what is going to be x. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 0.2. Show your side work for this. 60 divided by 0.2 equals 300. Okay, next one, 15 is 75%, 0.75 of x. So you're going to divide both sides by 0.75. Show your side work for this. 15 divided by 0.75. Oops, hold on, sorry. 15 divided by 0.75. That's going to be 20. I don't know who's listening to my videos or not, so I'm just going to write this out again. If you do not show side work for decimal calculations, you will not receive full credit. So hopefully you are listening to me. See if I can highlight this. Yes, I can. Oops. Don't know what had just happened. If you do not show side work for decimal calculations. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to now translate. 5 is 20% of what? Divide both sides by 0.2. And so 5 divided by 0.2 is 25. Okay, next, 120 is 15% of what? Divide both sides by 0.15. And 120 divided by 0.15 is 800. So 800 is equal to x. Again, show all of your side work.